Hello, everyone. You're watching Sports Ahead with Indranil Basu. Today, we're going to talk about the India-South Africa Test Series. We just got over. India, of course, losing by a 2-1 margin. Today, we are joined by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, a very avid cricket fan. Sir, a very warm welcome to India Ahead.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Indranil, even though the occasion is not a very happy one for us cricket
I know.
fanatics.
Tell me about it. So I thought for a perfect winter evening, a wind would have kept us warm, but that was not
Quite right.
meant.
Quite right. In fact, I think that we all hoped against hope that even though the South Africans uh, needed only 100 runs, 111 runs, and they had 8 wickets to play with, that somehow our bowlers would pull something off. But they only lost 1 wicket in getting there, and I'm afraid it was a pretty comprehensive defeat for our boys.
Yeah, I mean 7 wickets on back-to-back matches. I mean lost in Joburg, we lost in Cape Town. Quite shocking the way we started in Centurion. I was very hopeful, sir. To be very honest with you.
No, I agree with you because Centurion certainly not only were we not only was the win comprehensive, but the South Africans seemed to be a rather weak side.
Yeah,
Uh, as far as the batting was concerned, we knew it was fairly fragile, but then the bowling, you may remember in the first test, their standout bowler was actually Lungi Ngidi.
yeah,
And then Rabada seemed slightly off color, and Janssen was too new at that point to make much of an impact. And Mulder certainly was not a factor at all. So the perception I had at that point was that if this is the best they can do, then we're going to walk all over them in the 3 test matches. Because Ngidi, who was their most successful bowler in the first test, is actually a very inconsistent performer. So I didn't think that we really had much to worry about as Indian cricket fans. I thought this was going to be a steamroller job. And then Rabada found his mojo from the second test onwards. Janssen grew into the whatever size 12 boots he wears, and Olivier was obviously a vast improvement on Mulder. And their batting may have been as fragile as ours, but it held together better, more consistently, and more often than ours did. So, in the end, as Kohli himself admitted, it was a thoroughly deserved victory for the South Africans, and we can't begrudge them that. We have to congratulate them on having really done a good job in winning the series.
in a way, we are also saying through Virat Kohli that we didn't deserve to win this Test series the way we played.
No, I would agree with you, Indranil. I don't think that our boys deserved a victory on the basis of the performance. I mean, look at both the fourth innings. It's very interesting. There was very little difference in the first innings of the second test and the third test. In the second test, the South Africans had a slight lead. In the first test, we had a slight lead, but the factor still remains that there was very little to pick and choose. Everything depended on our third innings performance and their fourth innings response. And there it was very clear that both the second and the third test, we couldn't actually do well or any better the second time around, whereas South Africa was able to not just hold themselves together and make the runs, but to do so just with the top of the order. They won both test matches by 7 wickets. This is a significant margin. It's not a close win, it's a comprehensive win in both cases.
But it's quite fascinating, I mean, considering the fact you're so busy all throughout, doing you know, honoring your political commitments, you still find time to keep a sort of, everything. I mean everything. I mean, all the scores, all the records, who is doing what the opposition teams are doing. This is quite incredible, sir.
Oh, I don't know. The fact is that I actually was on leave, visiting my twin sons and my 3 grandchildren in the States. So there wasn't a whole lot of spare time to look at cricket, but my sons were considerate enough to take out a subscription to the programs that the Americans show of cricket, and I was able to watch whenever I could large chunks, and of course to follow the scorecards religiously on the internet. So I'm pretty much up to speed throughout the process.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember last year in January when we won that historic Australian tour. Rishabh Pant was the guy who did it. And yesterday when he scored, I was so excited. Then I got in touch with you. I said, let's do a show. But I'm as journalists, I'm very disappointed. Really, I wanted some miracle because whenever Rishabh
Well,
Pant plays,
Rishabh's was a lone hand, Indranil. I mean, the fact remains that if you look at his century, And then you see that the next highest score was Kohli's 29. That
Yes.
shows you that there was simply nobody else to bat alongside him. And this is something which calls for a serious amount of introspection on the part of the Indian team, the Indian captain, the Indian management. I know it's easy for a Congress MP to talk about introspection. We are saying that all the time when we lose elections. But this time, I think the Indian team really has to do some very serious introspection. Something isn't right. When we 6 times around are unable to crack 300, or 5 times out of 6 we couldn't crack 300. In every fourth innings, our performance has been disappointing. There's something wrong with this picture, and that means that we really would have to revamp our batting. We are a country with batting riches. When a world-class player like Prithvi Shaw can't even get into the Indian touring squad or the reserves, it shows you the depth of our talent available. Then maybe we really now need to shuffle the pack a little bit. It's been a sad state of affairs. I was thinking back, that our greatest ever side was probably the one that had a top six or top seven of Sehwag, Gambhir, Dravid, Tendulkar, Lakshman, Ganguly, Dhoni.
Yeah.
And yet all of them left at their peak. Okay, Tendulkar lasted till he was 40, but everybody else of that list left when they were not far from their peak, and not long after some of their most outstanding performances. So the truth is that they all knew when to go. And I think at this point, some of our senior players will have to ask themselves whether they need to make way for younger talents to have a crack at building themselves a different record in this team.
Absolutely. But talking about that era didn't have that many fast bowlers, what we have today. So I wish there was Shami, there was Bumrah with that team. And that team had so many people, so many cricketers who played more than 100 test matches eventually for India.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, that team did have at different occasions the likes of Zahir and Srinath and Irfan Pathan at his best, but they didn't all fire at the same time very often, and that was
Yes.
certainly a disability. Um, our problem has been that our best bowling attack today is not allied to our best batting attack, but that's true of every country. The team has to form itself, has to build itself up. Look at the Australians. I must say that their best batting attack, when they had people like Hussey, Hayden, Ponting, you had who am I leaving out? You had Michael Clark. You had a really outstanding batting side, and at the same time they had top class bowlers: McGrath, Gillespie, that whole lot of them. Shane Warne bowling spin. The present Australian side has nobody at that level. Okay, Smith is probably the only sort of great who can be mentioned in the same breath as some of those great Australian names. And now what you're seeing is that others are just rising up and rising to the occasion. In this series, Travis Head has come out of pretty much nowhere, 2 centuries in 3 matches. You're seeing this amazing Labuschagne series after series, tremendous
Sure.
consistency making runs. Khwaja isn't picked for 2 years. He comes in and scores 2 centuries in a match. That's the sort of thing that I think we're lacking. Now, there is one caveat. Many people say that we have been really put into play on bowling paradises, that all the wickets we faced in England and in South Africa, which are our last 2 series, have been really not particularly good for batting. And that may well be true. But at the same time, the hallmark of great batting is the ability to score runs in any conditions. If Pant could score a century without really a single life or a single chance, a chanceless 100 not out, then some of our much wanted batsmen should have been able to score 50s or 60s to support him. And we didn't do that 2 tests in a row.
But I'm quite hopeful with Dravid, who has the distinction of playing over 30,000 deliveries in Test cricket. He will change things. How to go out there, occupy the crease, spend some time, not lose your hope. You get your opportunity. Wait for the loose deliveries. These are intricacies of game which you have to follow the basics of the game. You can't hit because everyone is driven towards white ball cricket, and there it's all bottom hand hitting. So that culture has to change. Dravid coming into, I'm sure they'll balance it out well.
Yeah, I mean, Kohli said so, right? The batting has to be looked into, no running away from that. Having
Yeah,
collapses every now and then is not a good thing. That's the captain speaking immediately after this. So he realizes that they really have to revamp the batting. The players he mentioned were KL, Mayank, and Rishabh. But Mayank's own position is vulnerable when Rohit comes back.
yeah,
And of course, we have to look at the rest of the batting very seriously. Um, our problem seems to be that whereas our almost third string side pulled off a victory in Australia, our
yes.
almost first string side has been defeated twice in South Africa. So this is a very fundamental question whether we're not giving enough importance to preparing players for the long format. Using COVID as an excuse to scrap the Ranji Trophy, and I think the shameful decision by the BCCI over the last few years to dispense with the Duleep Trophy has to me been unforgivable. I grew up in an India where the Duleep Trophy was the hallmark of the threshold of getting into the test side. You were good enough in the Ranji team to be picked for your zonal Duleep side. That was one step below test cricket. And you played in the Duleep Trophy knowing that if you played well, you had a chance of attracting the national selectors. And the BCCI dispenses with the Duleep Trophy in their anxiety to have more T20s and more ODIs. I think that's really been a disgrace. We really ought to get our act together and look seriously hard at how we prepare uh, cricketers for the hard grind of international 5 day cricket.
But how do we conduct a tournament like Ranji Trophy during the current times?
Look, we can do it. Look what the South Africans did. They played the 3 test matches without a single soul watching in the stadium and just did it for TV. Now, maybe the BCCI won't make that much TV money out of the Ranji Trophy, but they can certainly afford to do this. And I feel even if they have, if they go back to the old format of zonal formats,
Yeah,
where therefore they'll have fewer matches right now because they have this, different groups and then different levels. Each team plays more matches, which is good for the batsmen and the bowlers. They get to play more matches, even if they don't make it to the knockout stages. But if the problem is something like COVID and not enough scheduling time, then go ahead and go back to the old zonal format and have fewer matches. I remember a first class cricketer complaining to me in the 60s and 70s that if we didn't make it to the knockouts, we'd sometimes play just 4 or 5 matches a year. And that
yeah.
wasn't enough to build up our momentum. And that was certainly not the best thing. But in the case of COVID, we could do that. And the most important thing, of course, is to use the Ranji Trophy to pick the best players for a Duleep Trophy. And why not something like a best versus the rest kind of
Which we
test
have.
selection
Yeah.
match? We have the Irani Trophy at the moment. But even that, because one team is the Ranji Trophy winners, and from the rest, you're picking a side which may or may not be people knocking on the doors of Test cricket. That one match is good, but I think we could do something more. And I still feel the Duleep Trophy could play a very important part in preparing Indian cricketers for the rigors of long form cricket, red ball cricket. We're spending too much time, energy, and so on white ball cricket
White ball
because
cricket,
that's where
yes.
the money lies.
Yeah, but if you can if we can have elections in our country during this time, current time,
Yeah,
I'm sure we can have cricket also. I mean, we will have
exactly.
cricket eventually.
Exactly.
I mean, that's but coming to that controversy that Ganguly, Virat Kohli, the way Virat spoke in that press conference, and you know, those sort of controversies are not good for the game. Because you have to have that positive frame of mind when you're going into a series like that. That was not meant to be the way Virat spoke. I mean, he is definitely looking little subdued as a cricketer because we haven't seen Virat scoring 80 runs, 20 runs of 80 deliveries. We've never seen that kind of Virat. But he has
Yeah,
to be,
29 off 140 or something. Yeah, I mean, the truth is that um, he has unfortunately retreated into a bit of a shell. This ranks amongst his slowest innings. I think he's only had 4 innings in his entire career where
yeah,
he batted at this kind of strike rate. And to think that he was doing that while Pant was scoring 70 odd at the other end is really sort of part of the surprise. But why did that happen and why was it necessary? I might say that in the case of Kohli, one should separate um, the um, the issues with the board from his performance as a cricketer, because I think as a cricketer he's in a league by himself. The issues with the board may have to do with his somewhat abrupt decision to quit the T20 captaincy. And the board's, the selectors' resultant decision then to deprive him of the ODI captaincy. The irony being is that they gave it to Rohit Sharma, and then Rohit Sharma got injured. And instead of saying, okay, Kohli, you continue for one more series as a farewell series as captain, they then gave it to Rahul, which I think is a very peculiar decision to make. Um,
Yeah.
when we all know that Kohli has expressed a desire to continue captaining India and ODIs. So all of this is most peculiar. You know, it's interesting when you look at the Australian situation, when Pat Cummins was ruled out because of being in close contact of a COVID patient.
Yeah.
Stephen Smith came back as captain for one test. He was the former captain, but he had no ego issues about that. He was clearly the best alternative captain on the side. And we should have done that if when Rohit Sharma was unfit to lead in the ODI series, we should have told Kohli, please take over again, and Rohit can come when he's fit. I must say that that too was a very surprising decision. Kohli must be feeling a little underappreciated for somebody who's achieved all that he has as an India captain over the years, starting with his captaincy in the under 19 days, his abruptly being forced to take over from Dhoni in Australia in 2014, and his subsequent performances in all three forms of the game. He probably deserved better than being sort of defenestrated in this way.
Absolutely. But your numbers are on the fingertips. I mean, 2014, he took over as a test captain. I mean, probably he will go down as one of the most successful captains. But I mean, the way he was talking on the stump mic yesterday. Did you see that moment? Trying to blame the broadcaster that you're trying to watch us whether we are cheating or not. That was really funny because those things
Look, I
you
mean,
can.
tempers can rise in this kind of activity.
Yeah.
Frankly, I don't hold that against these boys. They clearly felt hard done by when even the umpire thought that when Ashwin had hit the batsman below the knee roll, how on earth that suddenly qualifies as a ball bouncing over the wickets? Naturally, there must have been some perception that they were hard done by. But come on, you have to allow young men in the heat of the moment to get a bit stressed out about these things.
Last year around this time, we were celebrating Ajinkya Rahane, the captain, who led India in absence of Kohli in Australia. And what an
That's
innings
right.
it was. He played in that Melbourne Test, if I'm not mistaken.
That that was the peak of his career, and I must say he was an outstanding captain.
Yeah,
I love the way when India won the match trophy, how the way sorry, when we won the series trophy, the
yeah,
way he called the rookie in the team, Natarajan, who had been included as a net bowler and
yes.
suddenly found himself making a debut. He asked him to come over and hold the trophy. What an amazing gesture of leadership. I mean, I like Rahane's style of leadership more than literally any other Indian captain, because captains tend to be somewhat led by their ego, showing that they are the chappan inch ki chhati of the cricket team. Rahane had exactly the opposite style, that it was all about the team and not about the captain. And I thought that was really an outstanding gesture. I wrote about it at the time, and I will be sorry that he'll never have a chance to captain India for a long haul. But that's life. I mean, his batting form fell away just as the time arose for him to enjoy his peak, I'm afraid, in the Indian team. So I think he undoubtedly will have to move on. I think I still feel Pujara has enough 30s and 40s and 70s and 50s to justify being persisted with. But
Yeah.
some people are probably going to think that he too should move. People like Gill and Shreyas Iyer are waiting in the wings. Mayank needs a place even after Rohit comes. We cannot indefinitely keep Prithvi Shaw out. The man is a genius. There's just so many talents sitting there waiting to come in that I think at some point there will have to be a reshuffling of the pack, and that's life. I mean, in all things in life, things move on.
But you can't do it in one go. You have to do one at a time. I mean, you just tell Rahane to get back to domestic cricket, find some form and see how it goes, and probably push up Hanuma Vihari or someone like that, Shreyas Iyer to come and play. Something like that. You can't just tell two seniors who have been holding the fort, not been scoring for last 3 years consistently, but still they're the ones with reputation. So I was little concerned about Rahane, and I miss Rahane the captain in that Johannesburg Test match, which Virat Kohli had to sit out because of a freak injury. That I think Rahul was not up there, as a captain. I felt. I mean, I could be mistaken, but that's what I felt.
Yeah, I mean, there was no obvious blatant failure as such, but nonetheless, right, Rahane, as a quiet, understated, and effective leader, showed us in the Australian tour what he was capable of, and it would have been great to see him replicate that in Johannesburg. Anyway, water under the bridge. We can't rewrite what's happened. Let's hope our boys show their quality in the one days.
Yes.
But we were bigger favorites in the Test series than we are in the ODIs. So let's see whether we're going to exceed expectations in the white ball, having disappointed fans in the red ball game.
Before I let you go, one last question: where do you see
Uh-huh.
Indian cricket going from here? I mean, we have
No,
not won a
Indian cricket
tournament.
is has already reached a level from which it cannot slip too far.
Okay.
I believe, because when you look seriously at the way in which our guys have done, we are a country that we are a team that has done remarkably well over the years, and of course we were number one or number two in the World Test Championship throughout the last round. This time around we're number four. We still have more points than everybody else, but because it's percentage points, the fact that we have only won 4 matches and lost 3 out of 10 we have played puts us in a pretty poor position at number 4, below Sri Lanka, Australia, and Pakistan. I would hope that in the next couple of series we can improve on that and we can climb back towards the top. I think whatever happens, Indian cricket is bound to be near the top
Absolutely. So
of the world.
there's
But we have every
little
right.
issue with
We have every right to expect India to be consistently number 1 or 2. The way in which, at the different era, Australia or the West Indies would enter every match expecting to win, and I was disappointed that this time we were unable to fulfill that self belief, that faith that we could have won it. So we can pick ourselves up and move forward, and I'm counting on Kohli and Rahul Dravid to pull the team together and make a big victory.
So there was
in
a
the next
little
series.
audio glitch, but thanks a lot for coming on What's Ahead, sharing your views. Look forward to talk to you again when India would do something really special and really big, probably winning the World T20 this year in Australia. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much.